my name is Jay Bowman. Something that people might not know about me is that I am learning Greek, Korean, French, and now Russian. My favorite memory from over the summer was playing cards with my parents and just going to a party with my friend. And then some of my hobbies are I go kayaking, sometimes I go fishing, I read, I do a lot of writing, and a lot of drawing and painting and stuff like that. And then, so my book that I'm reporting on is the one that I'm writing, which is called Feral Story. It's just a filler title for now, since I don't know what to name it exactly. And the setting basically takes place within, like, a variety of different locations within, like, a really large forest-y type of area. And, there's, like, on, like, the border of the forest, there's a dry gorge. And the setting kind of like helps you get in touch with like the point of view with the characters and try and get more of like the animalistic mindset. And the time period is like modern times, but you wouldn't really notice, except for like one like little scene where there's cars mentioned. But other than that, you wouldn't really know exactly what time period it is. And then the main characters are Siku, Granite, and Ash, who are wolves. And then there's Kaido, who is a fox. And the characters all start off on a peaceful note and don't really have much to worry about besides a dwindling amount of food between all the typical forest animals and then the two bordering packs. And, well, soon into the book, the two bordering packs go into a war and they end up basically massacring each other's camps. And the only two, or three survivors really from the camp are Siku, Ash, and Granite. Granite, who was saved by Kaido, who heard the fight going on and was nearby. And he basically helped save Granite in the midst of the fight. And so, at the beginning of the book, Siku was more kind of like laid back and chill, just kind of doing things because he needs to for the good of the pack. And like a little on later on in the book, Siku starts to show more protective sides to his little brother, who is Granite. And Granite is, since he started off as a pup in the beginning and he's aging throughout the entirety of the book, he does have a lot of changes where he's a little bit more like playful and sometimes, and other times he's more like reflective, and he kind of like thinks back into like the time that he kind of like dwindly kind of barely remembers what happened within like the war that was going on. And he eventually ends up being pretty mature, really, and like he turns into a really good strong wolf. And then Ash is a wolf who is very wise, and he's always trying to keep everyone together and trying to keep things as peaceful as he possibly can. But as the book progresses, he starts to take more of like an assertive edge, and he does it out of protection and like not to be mean though, because his job back when the pack was not murdered, basically, he was the wolf who was in charge of trying to keep everyone as peaceful as possible without going too far or accidentally killing one of the wolves. So that was his job. And then Kaido, however, he starts off very shy and skittish, kind of unlike the other three characters. And he's really intimidated very easily. And he kind of ends up becoming more independent and brave as time passes on. And the conflict starts at the beginning of the book when the main pack attacks their neighboring pack. And the only, like I said, the only few survivors are Ash, Siku, and Granite. And then Kaido's not part of the... he's not within the pack, so I don't really consider him a survivor. He was just a fox who lives on the side of the forest. And then, so, midst of the attack, after the main wolves are returning back to their own pack, Ash realizes that something's kind of off and realizes there should have probably been more wolves in the pack, and it was a little bit too easy of a fight even though they did lose the majority of all of their warriors, basically. So, they end up having to ditch their alpha because he's injured severely, and there's no way he can get back to the camp without basically ending up more weak or possibly even dead. So, Siku and Ash, and then the other few unnamed, just kind of filler characters, run forward to their own camp, where they find that the other wolves from the other pack kind of had the same plan of trying to massacre their other rivaling pack. So now both packs are essentially destroyed, and right before lightning strikes, causing the entirety of the wolves that are in the gorge to basically erupt into flames due to it being so dry, Ash drags Siku out of the fight to save him, basically, and they end up surviving and basically thinking that everyone else is dead, only to come across Kaido and see, oh, okay, Granite's okay, we have a friend that's okay, it's all okay, for a minute. So then the conflict's resolved when the wolves all take in the fox's request to go and join him at his old den that he used to share with his mother. And they end up traveling to different places to try and get to the den. And their original idea was to go to Kaido's old den. And as they were coming across it, they found that the den was actually taken over by a smaller type of wolf breed, and they ended up having to try and go to trying to find a different den because they weren't about to fight, and end up possibly risking more damage than what was already caused from the war. So now basically they're just trying to run around and trying to find a den or a suitable place to make a den, so that way they have a place to live, because the gorge is now basically on fire and full of bodies and no one wants to live there. And so the theme of the book is kind of like a mix between survival and friendship, seeing how in nature itself, wolves and foxes tend to not get along very well. In fact, foxes are actually usually food for wolves. So it's a little bit fantasy too, I guess, seeing as how they're all talking and stuff. But for the most part, it's survival, and you're surviving with a bunch of animals that you typically wouldn't survive with in the wild. So it takes a strong bond of friendship in order to be able to combine two breeds of animals that typically would not coexist like peacefully in the wild. So that's everything.